very clear examples to work with. Now we will move on to our fourth presentation about technology and society. Julián Sastre is a doctor with more than 40 years of experience in sustainable mobility. He's the president of the Institute of Mobility. He's directed many projects in Europe. He's a professor at the Polytechnic University of Madrid, and he's going to talk to us about urbanism and mobility as an inseparable binomial. Welcome. Over to you.
Bueno, pues nada, como cuando ya estás por la tarde y eres de los últimos.
Well, it's not an easy position to be in, one of the last presenters in the afternoon. I don't want to repeat what my colleagues have said, so I will try to highlight at least the key points. We're going to be talking first of all about the general principles of mobility. We've already been talking about how if a project is sustainable, it must be useful for society, not a train leading to nowhere. They need to be ecologically acceptable and affordable. So these are three conditions that make a project sustainable or not. In cities, we have other problems, energy demands and pollution to take into account. So when we talk about urbanism and mobility as these inseparable pair, what I'm talking about is how we have to think about people are going to move around cities. These are opportunities to modify our cities. If we want to build a tram, then it's often a chance to make other changes to the facades of the buildings in that city, for example. So here we have 8 key pillars. For instance, if we enable people to move around by bike, this is sustainable and healthy. It allows people to connect different neighborhoods. And it's really the best solution out there.
Pero es que para atender bien el transporte con transporte público tiene que haber un nivel de densificación. Compactar eso de
So we need a certain densification, and we also need to ensure that the land that we're working with is close to the area where the problems need solutions. We will be looking at things like parking restrictions as well. So smart cities then. Of course, they have to do with technology, but that's only one part. For me, a smart city needs to be above all sustainable, with an identity, a strategic global project, not a series of small projects. Technology needs to be involved, of course. I will go through my slides as quickly as possible because I know we're short on time. So, inclusivity. In Spain, there are around 10% of the population that have some kind of disability. In Europe, we have an aging population, and we've seen that Latin America is going in that direction as well. And then we have people who have temporary problems such as injuries or pregnant women, etc. But at any point in time, around 40% of our population have reduced mobility. And this is something that will affect all of us at some point in our lives. So it's something that we must take into account when we design our cities. In the Canary Islands, these percentages are perhaps a little higher. So urbanism and mobility must always go hand in hand. Why do we need to do this in the right way? Of course, it's to do with health and survival of the city. But as Jeanette Sadik-Khan said, it's also to do with economics. People will want to invest in and live in cities that are pleasant to live in. There are many reasons for doing this. Ultimately, we have to do it. What's key to Santa Cruz in particular then? Of course, there's a lot of traffic congestion, traffic jams.
Según las ciudades, los tamaños de las ciudades, pues algunos piensan que, bueno, tampoco hay tanto tráfico, pero la TF1 y la TF5 te la
You may come from cities with even more traffic congestion than we have, but the truth is on the TF5 motorway, there is a big problem with congestion. You can see in the photo. Our public transport has come on leaps and bounds. We have these transport hubs with the Tenerife Metro, but there's still a lot left to do. So alternative active mobility. You can see the bicycle lanes in Santa Cruz in the image on the left. Not even bicycle lanes, but bicycle paths, let's say. And here is the bicycle network in Seville, where my grandchildren live. I must mention them. 200 kilometers of bicycle lanes. You can go absolutely anywhere in the city. And that's why bicycles are used more in Seville than in many other places in Spain. Of course, the Netherlands is another great example. Awareness and technology. All over Spain. Here we can see the accessibility of parts of the city that are outside of the center. It's more difficult to reach these outer-lying parts with public transport. And we must congratulate the city, actually. It has, for a few years now, been making changes in the way it manages sustainable mobility. We're starting to see the fruits of these efforts. It looks like there will be more areas of regulated parking zones. It seems incredible that we are one of the few cities in Spain that doesn't have this parking system. This is the topic of a whole nother presentation. I've selected here a series of projects related to mobility. One is Green Santa Cruz 2030. We'll talk a bit more later. Low emission zones. Around 80–90% of Spanish cities have these low emission zones, so we're a little bit behind now. I hope, though, that this will be implemented. It won't just be a case of installing some cameras. We're also electrifying the fleets of buses. Then there is a plan for a cycle lane network. Right now, we don't have hardly any cycle lanes, but a plan does exist. I hope it's implemented. I know there are representatives here who are involved in this plan. There is a project for a train going to the south of the island. This project has been in the pipelines for many years now. It would be great, but until this is implemented, what are we going to do? We have a big problem. We have to do something while we're waiting for this project to materialize. Does anyone have any idea what it costs to build 1 kilometer of train tracks? Well, I would like to take the budget of just 1 or 2 kilometers of this train, and I will be able to do an awful lot with that money, I promise you. Of course, I support this project, but there are other things that we could also be doing at the same time. Then there are some interesting European level projects with Utrecht, Gothenburg, and Nice. And we're going to talk now a little bit then about this urban development. We are in an ideas generation stage right now, the early stages, which is great. There are lots of things that we want to do, and we're developing these new participatory processes. And we're right now looking at how these ideas, mobility and urbanism, are connected. We're going to create pedestrian zones, improvements in public transport. We are going to see mixed-use spaces, and that's great. There is, as I say, citizen participation. We've talked about this a lot today. But in order to ensure that this happens, and this event is an example of this participation, but it requires involvement from lots of actors. It's a part of the process, and it requires a time frame and requires a budget to ensure that it happens. And here we've done a bit of an exercise. Well, my colleague who's here has done it. This is a big screen for me to see, but basically we've calculated the distance between the intercambiador, so the transport hub in Santa Cruz, and the refinery. It's around 20 minutes walking and just 6 minutes by bicycle. If these distances are agreeable spaces, well, it's not too far. Right now, our transport hub in Santa Cruz is located around 15 minutes walking from the center of the city and 7 minutes by bike. Really, if a transport hub is going to be successful, then these distances need to be short, like this. I don't think we should, therefore, move this transport hub towards the refinery. I think it's ideally located, actually, right now. The train station heading south should be connected to this transport hub, of course. But right now, this transport hub is working very well for the residents of Santa Cruz. So what would be my recommendations for this roadmap? Well, I think that we should think about this development as a dot. We need to carry out the necessary studies to ensure sustainable mobility, so public transport and active mobility. Because when you walk, a lot of us are staying in the Mencey Hotel. We have walked here today without even realizing the time passing. It was such an agreeable walk through the small streets. We need good citizen participation. That requires a comms team. We need an innovative and modern project in all senses, including sustainable mobility. And success must be focused on the 3 pillars of sustainability, and it has to also be attractive. These are my recommendations for this roadmap. Some examples then of this dot, this inseparable binomial, GWL terrain in the Netherlands. This used to be a very degraded part of the town. They've put a water reservoir there, and here Västra Hamnen has a port installation there on the coastline, and it will be transformed into what we see on the right-hand side. This project has a mixture of housing and many other uses, and it's also taken into account, of course, mobility. So good case studies to follow. Barcelona, Paris. But there are also other cities like Pontevedra, which is worth looking at. I am a script. This video shows how the mayor, over the course of 25 years, totally transformed, or 33 years, transformed what was an awful city into a wonderful one. And this video is a reflection on everything that was said at a political level. The conclusion is that when there is a leader, then there is success. It's an interesting video because it invites reflection on the role of leadership and the importance of leadership. When I was talking about these studies, okay, so the transport hub, the train station of the south, this public transport network, buses are very useful, of course, and then there's the active mobility and safe mobility. Add 1 kilometer of train line extra, as I was saying earlier, to your budget and give it to me and see what I can do with it. Citizen participation, we've talked about this, and then there is transport of goods, e-commerce. This is another important issue. So the key then is this mix of sustainability and attractiveness. We often hear the opinion that this isn't going to be possible in Santa Cruz, but I would like to give you a response you might use when faced with people that have these negative outlooks. And I would like to use reggaeton music. We've talked about the old rock stars that we were joined by in the first 3 presentations this morning, but if reggaeton can change, then Santa Cruz can change. And let me explain. Do you remember 10 years ago now, this song, maybe more than 10 years ago, Me Gusta la Gasolina. This was a very famous reggaeton song that was about a car. And then there was a very famous song about a taxi. And then there was Shakira and Carlos Vives. We have a Colombian French representative here, and they spoke about a bicycle in their reggaeton song. And now we have Despacito, slowly, slowly. So if reggaeton has made this change, then we can too. Thank you.
Lo ha abordado.
Excellent. Fantastic. If reggaeton can change, then we can. I love it.
Qué buen final, Julián.
Excellent end to your presentation, Julián.
Te vamos a poner de dinamizador el año que viene.
We're going to make you our
Bueno, con el permiso de Prese. Bueno.
presenter, our MC next.